Hello and welcome back to the podcast for Project Seed Money. My name is Sharissa Bradley, and I am so excited to be joined today with author Gina Ramsey. We are going to be talking about all things books and publishing and inspiration for female authors. So thank you so much for being here, Gina. I am thrilled to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. I would like to just jump right in and ask the question, did you always think that you were going to be a writer? Was writing always something that was like part of your life?
No, actually, I've written in the capacity of my work environments that I've been in, but it wasn't something as a kid where I'm like, I'm going to be a writer one day. I had written a short story and read it in eighth grade, and I had a really traumatic experience with it where the kids laughed at me. And it was like an event with my dad with a heart attack that he had. And I was just like devastated when they laughed at me. And I actually wrote about that not too long ago. And that was really healing to write about that because it just came to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this what's held me back all this time? Right. But when we moved to Wisconsin in 92, we started having all these crazy Murphy's Law scenarios happening to us. And I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. And I would tell coworkers and friends and family members these stories. And they would just laugh at these stories, and they're like, you need to write a book someday. Like, your stuff is so funny, and you've got all these great stories. And I said, I think I will. I think I'll write a book one day. And then when our glove box did burn, because that's the name of my book, Burnt Gloveboxes, I knew that at that moment that was going to be the title for the books.
And it's just so ironic that it's like you write funny stories, but the
Yeah.
stories that in the moment happening, very far from funny.
Oh, correct. I mean, there's a couple that were really funny in the moment, but a bunch of them were really nail-biting experiences, some of them. Some of them I wanted to cry or scream. But I think that being able to take a step back, I've always had kind of the glass half full mindset. I don't know, my family might argue that. But I've always had the kind of this like ability to look at something and laugh at it. And I think with time, that allowed that space to be able to take a look at those stories with a different perspective and the irony of how some of this stuff happened, because these are all true stories in my books. So, and just unbelievable stuff. Stuff where people would wonder if I was fibbing.
So was the glove box burning the catalyst for starting your writing journey? Or was that like at some point you were like, I'm going to write this and then now I have the title?
Yeah, I kept saying, I'm going to write a book one day. I think because every time something happened, I'm like, I have to write a book. Like, this stuff is hilarious. And then the glove box burned. And then that was the catalyst for me going home and actually sitting down at my computer and typing up my story titles and the intro to my book, which is crazy. This was 20 some years ago. And I put that in a manila folder and I wrote with permanent marker on it, burnt glove boxes. And I carried that around with me wherever I went. I always bring a bigger bag with me, took it on vacations with me, took it, wherever, with the idea that I'm going to probably start to write the book on vacation, like all the like hundreds of books I'd bring on vacation with me that I'm going to read while I'm on vacation. But the other thing with it is when I did bring it with me, if somebody told me a funny story or something else happened, I would note that on the paper. And so this whole thing is like 3 pages and it's just full of writing. Plus some Disney trip planning is on there I found the other day. Like, why did I write that on there?
Like, would be a future story?
Yeah, no, it was actually we were planning a trip and I was figuring out prices or something. Maybe it was the only paper I had available at the moment.
I use random like pages as a bookmark. And I opened a piece of book and it had these 2 paper towels, like Bounty paper towels, very sturdy, written on both sides of both of the paper towel sides. And I had been sitting, I remember, in my garage and thinking to myself, like, I have this idea. I got to write it down right now. But my kids were in the house. And I thought, if I go in the house right now, my kids are going to ask me something and this idea is gone.
Gone.
I need to write with something now. And so I used these two paper towels. And this was
Yes.
like 8 years ago, but I found them in a book just this week. And I was reading it out to my husband, like, look at these. You get that idea, you got to write it. It doesn't matter where it's on. You could have just grabbed the closest thing to you.
Absolutely, and that's a huge writing tip for people, like, any really good writer I've taken several classes, they say, when you have an idea, have a notepad by you with you at all times, or use your phone memo, or now I just bought, believe it or not, you might know about this, but there's shower notes, and I finally bought them, and because I'll be writing and I'll be working on projects, and I'm gonna hop in the shower and warm up or whatever, and I'll get in there and these ideas start flooding me, and I have nothing to write with. So putting shaving cream.
Oh my gosh, how interesting. I've never heard of that before, but that is so fascinating. My ideas don't come to me in the shower, but my husband always is having the ideas in the shower. I feel like that would be a really cool gift. You just have to write when it strikes. It just does happen. So you're carrying around this manila envelope and you've got these ideas and you've got these pages and the Disneyland notes, and it's 20 years. When does the book come?
I joined a networking group, a women's networking group, and my husband and I own a different business. And I thought this will be a great opportunity because they have people talking about marketing and different aspects of business that I thought, well, this will be helpful learning some of this extra stuff.
Yeah.
So I joined this group. And what I found is that several of the ladies in there are published authors. And it's funny because I must have said it to them at some point that, "Oh, I would love to be an author at some point," but I don't remember telling them that, but it planted a seed for them, and the owner of this networking group, she reached out to me right before November in 21, and she said, "Hey, if you're still wanting to write your book, NaNoWriMo's coming up, and so I'm gonna sign up. Do you wanna sign up?" And I'm like, "Well, how much does it cost? Like, what is it?" Because I had no idea. And she said, "No, you just set a goal to write your book, and you just, enter your word count and stuff." And what's really cool is I was a half marathon runner, was until COVID hit, and then I gave up on that. Came to my senses. And I would only run, like, if you get really good bling at the end of the run. So, for this, it had an online app, and so you get, like, little medals, and they're virtual. They're like little badges and stuff when you meet your word count. Sadly, a Nano is coming to an end. Their funding is done, and they're not doing it anymore, I just found out. So I thought, "You know what? Why not? We're starting our business, might as well write a book too."
Might as well.
Yeah, so I started I grabbed my outline
Yeah.
and I just started typing it, and I would start between 9 and 10 at night, and I would go until 2 or 3 in the morning. I'd go to bed. Of course, your brain is still reeling. Go to sleep for a few hours, wake up. I'm a full-time social worker, so get up in the morning, get ready for work, and I would do it every single day, and I didn't finish the book in November, but it gave me a really huge start, and then I finished it by spring of the following year. And luckily, my publisher is also in the same networking group, and I was really drawn to her sense of humor, and just everything about her. And I asked her if she would be willing to take a look at what I have, and she put me through the same process that she does anybody else, and so I sent her the intro, a couple stories, and, then I met with her after that, and she said she wanted to take on my project. So I was thrilled. I was thrilled because I thought she would say, "Never pick up a pen again." He's not trained in this. I don't know what I'm doing. And
I think we're having your publisher on the podcast. I'm really excited to hear. Maybe we'll get a little perspective on that. She seems amazing. I'm really excited to get to share her voice too. So you're finally getting the book out there and now it's out in the world, right? But how did you go from the publishers taking on the project to like being published? Was there like all these steps in the way that you kind of like maybe you weren't as sure of in the beginning? Like you just wrote a manuscript. So then once you took it to the publisher, did she then take over the rest of the steps from there?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like any other publisher. She takes on a big piece, she reviews that. Gave her the whole manuscript. She went through it. Luckily, while I was writing, I met Leslie Leyland Field. She's a writing instructor. She used to work at colleges, but now she's got all these online things that she does. And I happened upon her free writing class, like a little sample thing. And I thought, well, I'm going to take this. I found it on Facebook, signed up for her membership. She was amazing because, again, I didn't have any experience at all with writing. So that's when I started learning the terminology and the structure of writing and the show don't tell type of thing. So you want to bring your reader with you on this journey rather than just saying, I did this and I did that. So I found that was really useful. So when Debbie did send me the corrections that needed to be made or suggestions to show her, she'd say, show me more, elaborate on this. Show won't tell. And I feel like I lucked out because of taking those classes. I knew what she was talking about. And also, I didn't take it to heart because, when you write your manuscript, that's your baby. Like you pour heart and soul into it, minus a billion spelling corrections or sentence structures, but like that's your heart and soul, right? And so it really gave me a different perspective by taking those classes to Debbie is an expert in this. She has taken the classes. She has done this time and time again. So it helped me keep the perspective of not taking that to heart and taking it as an offensive or as an insult or anything like that, but really truly wanted me to make this the best that it could be. And so that's where we went. So she did a bunch of corrections or the way she presents it, which is amazing, is these are suggestions. You can do what you want. If you don't want to change this, that's up to you, but I'm giving this to you from a professional standpoint. So then I would go back in and do the corrections, send it back to her. She would go in. So it was kind of like this back and forth type of thing until we got it solidified and ready to go. That was a pretty amazing, it's a daunting process. What's really cool is each fall and spring, she has these writing cohorts. So whoever's going to be in that cohort, who's going to be releasing these books at a certain time, she does classes and they were every week on a Thursday morning. And she teaches her writers her process and what we need to do, but she also teaches what she's doing behind the scenes. So we're learning the whole process. It was such a great experience. I can't speak more highly of what she does with her writers to prepare them and to educate them.
That sounds so cool. And I love that you're in a cohort together with people that are not only like-minded, but publishing around the same time. So you're all having that same experience. That's
Yeah.
really neat.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to
It's
try to link her stuff down below because I want the listeners to be able to find this quickly and easily. And that sounds
absolutely.
like an incredible asset.
Yes, absolutely. And I know she's gonna make some changes to it and stuff, and I don't know if she's gonna offer recordings of the teachings or because that was kinda tough. I took time off of work, vacation time, so it kinda ate into my vacation time, but at the same and it wasn't mandatory. She recorded every session, but I felt it was really important for me to be there with the fellow cohort writers, and that way I could ask questions if I needed to and that type of thing. So I looked at it as a value thing, and that it was worth taking that time to do that.
I would agree totally because it sounds like you get the community aspect, you get the education, you get that
Yeah.
a little bit of confidence, even a little bit of courage because you have other people that you're workshopping with rather than just staying in your own mind, which can be hard to publish from that place.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so what was the timeline like then? When you got picked up by the publisher, how long until books were ready to be sold?
So I signed my contract with Debbie. This is just such an important day for me. So on 4/29, April 29th, of it is, of 22. So, that is my lucky number. I have, a little thing set on my phone to go off at 4:29 every day, and it's a moment I just had gratitude, and so the little alarm goes off. It went off while we were talking, so I just turned it off. I didn't do anything with it today. But, yeah, so I signed with her on 4/29 of 22. And then in May of 23 is when the first Burnt Gloveboxes hit shelves. Yeah, it was just amazing. And really, so I have volume I and volume II. Those were actually the whole transcripts. I was like, this is the book. She's like, no, we gotta split it. There's a lot of stories here. So we split it. And it's just like such a cool thing knowing that I finally achieved this. And I really truly believe that I did the work, of course, but I feel like by saying it to people that this is what I'm going to do, not, oh, maybe I'll do it someday, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to write a book. And then also by writing it down, I just feel like that really attracted more of that positive energy and pulled the resources that I needed into my path at the time I needed them to be there. So,
It sounds like all the right people came.
yeah. And honestly, I don't think that like 20 years ago, that was my biggest question. Okay, write it, but then how do you publish it? Like, what's the publishing process? My kids were younger and I was doing the skating and the hockey, and, like it's not that it wasn't priority, but it was kind of behind some of the other priorities. And so I think that it was just the right time for me to do it a couple of years ago.
It does sort of seem like it's a formula. It's like you have to have the idea, that has to be there,
Yeah.
obviously. But then there also has to be the time and the resources and the mental energy to expend. If you're listening to this and you think like, I have this idea, but I don't have the ability to do it yet, like maybe you just don't have the ability to do it yet because the stars all kind of have to align to give you the time, the space, and the mental energy, and then the right tribe, the right people, the right team.
Absolutely. And what I would encourage people to do, like, it might not be the right time, but start writing your stories. Like, it doesn't mean you have to publish right away, And I didn't write the stories per se, but I wrote the titles for those stories. So I knew what I was wanting to put into the book. Some of them I forgot, though. There's one about a newt. And I asked my daughter because I knew my oldest daughter was involved with it. I'm like, what was the story with the newt? And she's like, I don't remember. I'm like, dang it.
No.
It was a good one. I know.
Add bullet points. Add bullet points to your chapter titles.
Right.
People.
Exactly. Just make good notations and then you'll know what you're right.
Or, grab a paper towel. It doesn't
Grab
sound
the paper towel. That's right.
it does matter. But I definitely think I love the ideas of having like your phone with your notes app or something. I've heard a lot of people like, oh, I just keep a notes app and I just anytime I have an idea. But truly, when you are a mom raising young children, it is so rare to have your idea and your phone at the same time. I am
Yeah.
going to tell you that is so rare. I wish I had my phone right now and then I'd have my phone and then no idea. So
Yes.
sometimes it's just going to be a random piece of paper. I definitely have lots of notes on the backs of receipts. Like
Yeah.
that's what I had in my purse sitting at school pickup line. And that was all I could do to write on. So whatever it is, it really doesn't matter. Just
Mhm.
start, right?
Right. Absolutely. And really for humor writing, a lot of what I've learned about that is, always be observing. My humor writing, it isn't political, it isn't raunchy or anything like that, but it's a lot of observational stuff. Like, what the heck just happened here, right? And if you're thinking about writing humor, always be studying, watching comedies on TV. Keep your notepad next to you. Like, because if you hear a quote or something that stands out, write it down, right? Because that could be material at some point. But that's a piece of writing too, always observing. Or again, like you said, if you think of something if you're doing a memoir, write it down on that paper towel or whatever you have available to you. So don't lose that thought, even if you're going to sleep at night. Same thing. Don't say,
It won't stay.
well, no, you listeners know. I'll remember this in the morning. And it never happened.
No, I have almost everywhere that ideas kind of strike me, I have Post-it notes. So like in my bathroom drawer, like my top drawer, I have like a stack of Post-it notes and a pencil always, and I replenish it. And then in my bedroom, like in my nightstand, I have a pack of Post-it notes and I always refresh it, and a pen. And like all over my house, I just end up with like Post-it notes everywhere. But sometimes you got to set yourself up for success. If you're putting yourself into the mindset of, I am a writer, I am going to be a writer, and you're always going to be observing your situation and your circumstances, there needs to be paper, abundant of paper.
All the time. Yes.
I love that. If I can get us back on our timeline, when you have now published your book and it's now May, I'm believing 2023 now, right?
Yeah.
So did you face any of that same kind of imposter syndrome that you felt when you were giving the manuscript to the publisher? Did you feel any kind of feelings like that when the book was coming out, or excess vulnerability, or anything, any of those other blocks or fear kind of around that time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was very excited that it was coming out. I had a great launch team helping me to promote it. I think that once the books were in hands, I still question. I still have that, well, are the stories that funny? Like, really, or that enjoyable? And I have people tell me all the time, but I think we get in our own heads from time to time. And I think there's an okay thing to that, right? You don't want to like strut your stuff and act like you're all that in a nutshell, right? And because that can come across very arrogant. So I think it's good to be humble. But yeah, I'm always battling the imposter syndrome, oh, it's not good enough, or there's an error. I found and we went over the transcript. I mean, editors, me reviewing, Debbie reviewing, editors. And I found the first mistake in the book. And I almost had a heart attack. And I messaged Debbie. I'm like, we've got a really bad issue, a really bad issue. There's an error. And I found it. And she was really great with explaining to me that every book has an error, but I didn't believe that. I'm like, I don't know. I think you're lying to me. But yeah, that was hard because we're always afraid of like being judged, and like, I don't know. That didn't sit well with me, but it took me a while to just process that and be okay with it. But I'll tell you, I gave her a run for her money with the second one.
Are getting every single one.
Oh, and we probably didn't get it all right.
That's what second editions are for.
All right.
That's fine. That's fine. Still find mistakes in big publishing houses.
Yes.
Like, I'll still find random like letters that are off on the page. Like, everyone makes mistakes. Even the big five make mistakes.
Yeah. And again, that's another like learning thing for me. The whole thing has been learning because again, I wasn't trained in this, and so maybe that's a good thing, just coming at it with fresh eyes and not, I'm a trained writer. Say the thing,
Well, and our audience is people who are bootstrapping their way to their very first book. So if you think about like, I'm doing this for the very first time, I'm facing all of those challenges, all those thoughts that you said, I'm overcoming this, I'm still doing this, I'm still publishing, even though I'm facing this every day. That's what we're all dealing with. And I think that that's so relatable. And hearing that, oh, you can be a published author 2-3 years down the road and still kind of have this feeling of like, is it worthwhile? Like, that will help, because the facts are the facts. You're never going to get over the fear. It's never going to go away. It actually stays with you, becomes like your little bestie companion, and you just walk side by side, and you still publish your books, and you still do all your hard things, and you just become companions with the fear, because it never goes away. It never goes away.
Right.
Yeah.
I
And so
totally agree.
that's encouraging, because if you know for a fact, I will never, ever get past this fear, so I might as well just walk in it anyways, then maybe you can just walk in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And be okay that it's there. I call them imposter monsters.
Yeah.
And I give because of course I social work and have done the therapy thing. So, and I always tell folks like those monsters are on your bus. They're going to be telling you you're not good enough. They're going to be telling you all this negative stuff and trying to get you to believe it. But the important thing is driving your bus forward, telling them to sit down. They can say whatever they want, but driving your bus forward. And that's how we become successful and achieve the greatest things that we want to achieve in life. We have to just keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Yes.
Mhm.
And we can't let it stop us because the fact is that it's always going to be there. And if we keep letting it stop us, then we don't get to grow. So it's really just the price of growth, really, is just being
Um,
kind of in fear and in that fear state and being okay with it. Because if we
mhm.
just let that control us, we're not going to get the stories, and we need everyone's story. It's so
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, your stories need to be heard. They need to be, or even if you just write them for yourself or for your family. That's the biggest fear I always had. Like, I don't want to die and have these stories never be remembered again. I want this for my kids. And that's the one thing my kids say, that they are so glad that I finally achieved this, that they'll always have this.
That is so cool. It becomes a legacy. It is
Yeah.
a legacy. It's something that exists beyond you, and it is bigger than you. And that can help. That can help. That can be overwhelming, but that can also help.
Yeah. And just the other thing too is knowing that your story, you witnessed or you've experienced these things in your life, and you have so much to share with other people, with your readers, lessons that you've learned, and you can help somebody else through your story and what you've lived through. And I think that's the beauty part of being a writer. We're there to help other people navigate life, whether that's through humor or whether that's through a traumatic experience that we've experienced, and being able to show how we've worked through that in such a beautiful way. I think we all have something to share with our world.
I couldn't agree more. And I do want to point out that if you are trying to write and you want to be a writer, but you don't have the time to sit down and write an entire book, there are lots of opportunities to be published in other people's books. So that's called an anthology, where we get a collection of stories together and get published. There's a lot of opportunity for that now. It does seem like more and more publishers are opening up this platform for an anthology type book where you can submit short stories or parts of a story, poetry, so you can get that kind of confidence little by little, rather than just putting out an entire thing, maybe just starting in one place. And I do want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about your anthology that you're working on, because I think what a cool way for our audience, if they have small pieces, they are humor writers, to kind of contribute to a larger whole.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, my goal from the very beginning, I always thought it would be really cool because, and when I'd share my stories with people, they'd be like, oh my gosh, if I got a story about my dog that I want to share with you. So, it was kind of this exchange of funniness, right? And laughing together. And, nowadays we're all got our faces in our phones. So, it makes it that human connection. It makes people feel like they're not alone in, like, yeah, my dog just ran down the street like your dog did. So, it brings that connection. I've always wanted it to be where I started an anthology. So, similar to Chicken Soup for the Soul, which those are inspirational stories. And I think that they have a funny, like a humor division too now. But to have people be able to submit their Murphy's Law stories. And so I'm working with Debbie right now on the or the submissions period. So we'll be, I believe we're starting that on April 29th. Yeah, the first one will be animal antics. It'll be any kind of animal stories. It can be pets, farm animals, wildlife, just experiences that you've had, zoo animals that are like Murphy's Law scenarios where, like, it was mishap upon mishap. But I wanna do a bunch of different topics, similar to in my books. Like, I've got car topics, vacation topics, so we're gonna see how the animal one goes, but we're really very excited about it.
That is so cool. If the animal anthology goes well, do you plan on or opening it up for submissions for other types of stories as well?
We're gonna do book by book. I even wanna do a supernatural one, like ghost stories. Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun, but vacation mishaps are really huge. There's a travel guy. My husband and I were old like my dad was, so he used to watch Nova every week or every night on TV. "You gotta sit down and watch Nova." And I'm like, "Oh, you're such a weirdo." So anyways, but now I become that, and so we watch travel shows on PBS every night. So Joseph Rosendo, he had a Instagram Live going, and he invited questions from the viewers, and so I asked what his craziest travel mishap was, and he answered, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so cool." So it's like and he's even got a book out of travel mishaps and stuff like that, and so, we all have it, like, we all have a mishap, we've all had a car or a pet or a home that we've owned where the dryer blew up or whatever, so I just love that it's a way to share story and experiences, and bringing joy to our world, like, one giggle at a time. And that's always been the mission of this is to bring happiness to our world, make my mark in that way.
That's so beautiful. And what a cool opportunity to give other people a chance to publish their legacy without doing an entire book. You don't
Yeah.
have to do a whole process. You don't even have to know the process. You
Mhm.
just have to be willing and wanting to share your story. That's so cool. I love it. I love this idea. And I love what you're doing out in the world. I think it's so cool. Do you want to share a little tiny bit about your two books, the volume one and the volume two,
Yeah.
of the stories that are already out?
Yeah. So that's number 1. Number 2
Yeah.
looks similar, but it has volume 2 with a surrender flag. So the chicken significance of that's what my face looks like when the incidents happen. Book 1 kinda gives the background. It really starts off with similar to the intro that I did years ago. It gives the back history of the Burnt Glovebox, how that provided the title for the book. But, yeah, I got car stories and pet stories, my Rusty stories. We had a golden retriever, he was nuts. Raising turkeys, my husband decided to raise turkeys, and he's not a farmer, and no means. We grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and he thought it was a great idea. And so, yeah, that one's a favorite amongst the readers, the turkey it's called Poultrygeist. And then the second book has a lot of those travel mishaps in it, and I have 3 stories in the second one from other people. One of my girlfriends, Michelle, wrote 2 stories for it, and then I also have a story from my best friend's daughter, and Hannah wrote the story when she was, like, 8 or 9, and I had visited them, and again, I don't remember talking about this with Hannah or anything, I just must have kept talking about, "I'm gonna write this book one day," and so they had this rat incident, and Julie told me about it, I'm like, "Oh my gosh," I'm like, "You gotta write that for the book." Well, she was super busy, she was a mom, didn't have the paper towel, and so Hannah decided to write the story at age 8 or 9, and it is identical to Julie's version in a kid's voice, and what was really cool about it is at the very end of it, she had written it into a letter. Julie found the letter while I was in this process of writing the book. And at the end, Hannah put, "P.S. I hope you write that book one day." And so people ask me what my favorite story in the book is, and that is my favorite story because she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
At 8 years old.
Mhm.
Oh, that gave me the chill. That's
Yeah.
so
Yeah, so Hannah's little rat story is in there, and, yeah, so it's kind of the launching book 2 is kind of the launching platform for the anthology, which is just amazing.
is so amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love your story so much, Gina. What a cool, cool way to bring joy and bring happiness and starting with yourself. And I love that the book starts kind of at the end. Not that your story's over, but the glove box was the catalyst to the starting. And then, but that wasn't the beginning story. So I love the way you did that. How full
Mhm.
circle.
Yeah, thank you. It's
Beautiful.
been a fun process, I'll tell you that. It's, at times I'm like, "I don't know what to do," but so much of it has been so it's just brought me so much pleasure, and through this whole process, and I tell people this all the time, I found my purpose in life. I found my purpose of being why I'm here, and I can say that with all certainty, and I'm gonna just keep writing my stories.
That's so cool, and congratulations. I bet just serendipity in all things, I bet this comes out near your anniversary date, so we'll just go ahead and say congratulations and happy anniversary because who knows, it'd probably be out just because of serendipity on the right day, right?
Yeah, right.
That would be really cool. I have no idea, but that would be really cool. So you've gone out the other side of it. You've got these books. You found your purpose. You found your purpose. Many people really can say that right now.
Right.
Many really can. What would you say to those who are, maybe they still have it in a manila folder? Maybe it's
Mhm.
just still sitting. Maybe it's just still ideas coming together.
Yeah.
How can we push them a little today?
I would just say keep carrying your folder everywhere you go. I mean, that's what I did. And tell people your intention. Don't tell them that I might write a book one day. Tell them I'm going to do this because I'll tell you, so many people, my kids, a lot of really close friends kept saying, "We're still waiting for the book. When's the book coming?" And so it's really this accountability thing. And they knew it was coming one day. None of us really knew when, and just kind of the stars aligned. But I would say, yeah, just keep writing your stories down on those papers inside of your manila folder or wherever you're writing them. Just keep writing your inspiration and it'll come to you.
That's so perfect. Thank you so much because we know sometimes it isn't the right time. If you just keep going, don't give up. Who knows? Maybe some 8-year-old from the past is going to tell you what it was all along.
Yes.
That's
And that's the thing, you might not know your purpose right now. You might be having that question, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? Yes. That's been my whole life.
yes.
Just to find it, it's just amazing, and you will find it. Don't search real hard. It'll come to you.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And then for our listeners, if you are feeling like a little stuck or a little bit lost, Gina is offering her services for support through Project Seed Money. You can find her on the directory channel. And I'll let you share a little bit about just how you can support other authors because what a genuinely peaceful presence you have. I feel that
Mhm.
anybody who is struggling and sits with you, they're going to find that support that they need.
Yeah. That's a great question, and thank you so much. I have found such a love for the writing industry and a love for wanting to help others who are in that phase where I wanna do this, but I'm not sure, like, what happens after I write this, or how do I even write? And so what I've been doing is if somebody has written a transcript and they're curious as to, like, I don't know where to go next, I'll meet with them and I'll give them suggestions of like Debbie or I know other publishing agents that I can forward them to ask more questions. So I kind of use that as a networking thing and helping them to find other resources in the industry, whether it's marketing or publishing. When you publish, you're not done. Like you got to do the whole marketing thing and that's a whole nother thing, that becomes your full-time job, is getting yourself out there because people wanna know your story and the reason why you wrote your book. The book is the piece of it, but they wanna get to know you. So, I help people by doing that, and then I also teach writing classes, some humor writing classes. I teach classes on fulfilling your bucket list, and doing those things important things in your life that you want to achieve. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. So let's put on the big girl pants and let's move forward. Right?
Keep driving the bus.
Keep driving the bus. Yeah. So, and I'm just so glad that we met each other because I love what you're doing with Project Seed Money. And it was what I kind of envisioned is like, it would be cool to have like all these resources in one spot. And when I found you, I'm like, you did it. Oh my gosh. Now I don't have to. I can send
I'm
my
like, I send the board. Feel it, because I would love for all of us to be doing that. I love the support. We can't reach everyone, right? As wide of a net as I can cast, we can't reach everyone. And I love that we are so aligned in our values, because it just helps more people. We can have more reach together. So I love that. And I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for coming on our show today. And thank you for all of your inspiration and just grace. I'm so grateful. And I will have all of the links to get a hold of you in the description, on the blog, on the website. You can also find her on the directory. So lots of places, easy to find. And I'll also have the links to your books as well. But thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was such a fun chat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on another episode for Project Seed Money. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And I will see you with another interview next week.